You mentioned women, you said, worth
Hmm.
and, making sure that like, if they're working for themselves or they're working for someone, like, is their worth reflected in they're, what they're getting back?
Hmm.
I feel like, at least in the communities that I'm running, a lot of women can have a day where they feel like they are definitely worthy, and then they feel guilty of the worth that they're demanding of
Hmm.
that they make, right? How do we, I feel like that is a big step that we need to figure out if we want to collapse the 208-year situation that we're in. Because if like, when I coach the male teachers I coach, they have no problems. Like, I'm like, oh yeah, that they want to make this much, no problem. I'm gonna go ask. Like, they don't actually ever feel guilty about that. And other people, like when I coach women, they're like, I know, but like, what are my clients going to say? Like, if I can't, like, I don't know why we're so concerned. Am I making sense? So like, what is it that you found, and what can we do as women to kind of get the guilt and the worth to not be competing against each other?
Yeah, I think I mean, it's challenging. It's really challenging um, to step into the version of you that can demand that because there's a lot of emotion and complexity tied up with money.
Mm-hmm.
So oftentimes when I feel like emotionally tied to a situation, I try to be more objective. Literally take a step back and look at the skills that you have and how much the market pays for those skills and how good you are at those skills. And that will show you that you're either on the bottom side of that market or the top side of the market. And
Mm-hmm.
my guess is if you're listening to this podcast, you really give a crap. You're probably doing a ton of self work. You create tremendous value for the people that you work with, the organizations that you work in, and the the work that you do reflects that. And so why conflate how you feel about accepting money with the objective reality of your worth being more,
Mm-hmm.
and then try to expand your container to be able to receive that. I know that's kind of I don't know how useful that is for somebody, but that's what's worked for me.
Yeah. I think like when you said expand your container, it's almost like I had to, like, I'm a visual person. So I like to close, like, think about like closing your eyes, and it's like allowing yourself to be big enough to have to receive all of that. And I think
Yeah.
sometimes we are so used to playing small, we've made our container so small that it gets filled up really quick before we've reached our worth.
Yeah, yeah. I James Clear wrote a great book, Atomic Habits,
Mm-hmm.
and there's something that he says in the book that has really stuck with me and that I constantly find myself going back to. And it's I'm the type of person who, and then fill in the blank at the end of that. And I think it's like I'm the type of person who makes $500,000 a year or $1 million a year or $10 million per year. And then like again, like envisioning and stepping into like who would I have to be to actually be able to receive $10 million a year? Like,
Mm-hmm.
why? Like, I'd probably have to be a different person. Like, that's not my income level. But again, like just going through those mental exercises of like, who would I have to become to be able to receive in that capacity can really help you figure out like where you need to do the work to be able to receive in that capacity.
Yeah, that can be more be it till you see it. If I told you to say that. So, but you know what? It's so, I was talking to, one of my friends who owns a business in town, and I was going to teach a workshop for her. And I just said to her, I love you. I'm saying no right now. And it's not you. It's just, I need some more time to be with myself. And I said, and I ran into her in person. I said, thank you for understanding. Most people be like, oh, when can you do it? And she just was like, no problem. It was so amazing. And she said, Lesley, she's like, I am working on something right now. And so you saying that just gave me more time to work on that thing. But what it was, and this is where I'm getting at your point, is writing down like the person you want to be or the thing you want to have, and then making sure that the next thing that you write down or the next thing you think isn't conflicting with that. So like, I'm the type of person who makes $500,000. The next thing is like, as you said, like, what would I have to do to be someone who could make $500,000 to someone who makes $500,000. And she says, oftentimes we write down like, but I don't have that. And I have a job that only pays me $115,000. Like we start to like, we erode the manifest, that we erode the vision. And really
Mm-hmm.
what it's supposed to be is like, okay, if I might make $500,000, what does a person who makes $500,000 do in the morning? Where does a person who makes $500,000 go to work? Where do they work? Right. Like
Yeah.
that kind of thing. And so I have been working on that because I stopped doing one of my morning routines of journaling because I was busy. I convinced
Yeah.
myself we're so good at this. Even those of us who have like a really strong morning routine can convince ourselves like, I need that extra 15 minutes. And I remember I was at the bank yesterday and it was a little frustrating thing to do at the bank. And I was like, people who don't have problems at the bank probably also make time for journaling and they don't feel guilty about it. And they don't like all these things. Like I made up my own version of it, but like we keep waiting until we have the thing to be the person we want to be, and supposed to like, who is that person and what do they have to do? And how do we add that in right now? And maybe you only are making $115,000, but if you start taking the steps that a $500,000 person is doing, you can have that life sooner. You can
Yeah.
have a
Yeah.
$500,000 life and working your way towards making it.